Okay, everybody, I don't want you to be alarmed here, but I am, in fact, invisible. That's right. Absolutely unseeable with the human eye. I understand this might be a little bit weird for you to comprehend right now, but it's okay, because we'll continue this video as always. It'll be just like you're looking at a still picture, essentially. So with that all being said, let's continue with our Class 1A discussion with student number 16, also known as Toru Hagakure. I'm waving my hands right now in excitement, but you can't see that, of course, because I am absolutely 100% invisible. Okay, no freaking way I was gonna do an entire video in that. I mean, it's honestly pretty breathable, but, you know, just the fact that it's just smushing against my face. Hey, a lot of people suggested, hey Matt, just do the whole video like this. Hey guys, we're talking about Toru today, so her ability is... No, guys, come on. That would be the easy way out, and I have to do it the really complicated way that didn't even really work at the end of it because, you know. But, alright. So, Toru Hagakure, I like her. I liked her from the first time I started reading My Hero Academia and she was introduced. And I understand right away, though, people are gonna get really upset by that thumbnail that I did. Now, I understand throwing just the full frontal nudity right there, like the boobs just so big they take up the entire thumbnail. I understand that's kind of risque, especially in the current era of YouTube and all that stuff, but I think it'll be okay. I think I could maybe squeak by with it. But yeah, there's going to be a lot more of those kind of pictures in the video, so if you're turned off by that, I think you should probably just click off right now, because it's going to get pretty intense. I'm feeling adventurous in this video. Hell, I'll show you one right now. Here you go! I know, a straight-up naked photo of Toru. Well, not really naked, because she's wearing gloves, okay, but look at her right there! No shirt, no bra, just right out there for everyone to see. Okay, that is seriously going to be the first thing we're going to discuss, okay? Toru is a high school girl that most of the time, whenever she's in her hero outfit, which isn't really an outfit because it just consists of a pair of sneakers and gloves, is walking around completely naked. Okay, there's really no way around that, okay? When she's just going to normal classes, she's wearing the uniform of UA, and the uniform is just floating in the middle of the air because she's Invisible Girl. That's her quirk, invisibility. It's pretty straightforward, and she's not even the only one that has it. It's not even unusual. Her parents have it as well. It was one of those quirks that, like Jiro's earphone jack, got passed down from her parents, although in Hagakure's place, both of her folks actually had the invisibility quirk passed down to her, so that's an interesting example. I don't think there's a lot of other examples of both parents that had the exact same quirks and then met each other and then had a child, but I guess in that situation that child would definitely have a quirk that was the same as both of their parents, you know, rather than a combination or just one of the others. So, you know, I guess it all depends on... I would love to see that little square thing involving like the hereditary genes, like how you get like certain hair color or eye color, but with quirks. That would be really cool, right? But yeah, anyway, so she's invisible, but she still, you know, she can't make the things she's wearing invisible. She can't turn her uniform invisible or anything like that. So yeah, her hero outfit, boom, when she was at the battle trial with Ojiro, she even stated like, Ojiro-kun, I'm gonna take off my gloves and my sneakers and I'll be able to sneak up on them. And then Ojiro's sitting there like, oh yeah, sure, okay, cool, yeah, you do that, that's smart. Holy crap, there's a busty teenage girl right next to me, completely naked. That is weird. Even if she's invisible, that is still weird. She's still physically there. She doesn't turn intangible like a ghost, although that would be a cool quirk. Ghost quirk, you know? But that's not that. She's still a physical thing that's there. She's not a thing, but, you know, she's still there, which means she can be affected by all types of attacks, like, for example, when Todoroki just walked into the building and just froze the whole damn thing. Remember that? And just actually, that sounded really painful because she was walking around barefoot, and when the ice froze the entire building, like, her feet got froze to the actual floor. And it was the same thing with Ojiro, but at least Ojiro had clothes on. Okay, to put this in perspective, imagine going outside in the middle of the winter with, like, -10 degrees, completely butt-ass nude. Yeah, that's essentially, that's painful, you know? A little bit painful, you know? Right, but that's not even close to being the most awkward it's gotten, okay? The most awkward moment involving Toru's invisibility was during the Sports Fest, right? When they had the cavalry battle. Is it cavalry or cavalry? One is, you know, the cavalry's coming, like reinforcements, and the other is the hill where they crucified Jesus Christ. But, yeah, the cavalry battle, you know, they had to get on top of each other and do that game of chicken, and they had to grab the headbands and everything. Okay, so Toru's team consisted of Jiro, Koda, and Sato. Alright? And Toru decided, oh, well, I'm invisible, so if I'm the one that has the headband, they'll be less likely to grab it. It's kind of not a very good piece of logic, because like I said, if she could make other things invisible, if she can turn the headband invisible, that would be useful. But that's not what she can do. So it's literally just like 3 people, and then the floating headband on top of them, which is an easy target to be grabbed. But look at this picture, okay? So Jiro is holding Hagakure up on her neck, you know, like, but you see how Hagakure still has the bottom part of her school uniform on, of her gym uniform. Okay, so she still has pants on, but she has no top. She took the top off because she thought that would be a smart way to play the game. So look at Koda and Sato. Her boobs are right in there. Her bare boobs are right in their faces right now. And think about that for 5 seconds. Cavalry battle. They're running around. And Toru is not flat. We know from perspective, she definitely has some stuff going on there. I mean, look at the... Yeah, okay. I mean, look. This is one of the few times where talking about boobs is actually kind of integral to the character. Alright, there's a character in this series that runs around with her bare boobs hanging out plenty of times. I feel like that's worth mention in the discussion video. Do you not? I think so, but okay, let's move on to the other parts of the story where she's done a lot of stuff. You know, a lot of times I think Horikoshi made her invisible not just for the sake of her quirk, but also for the sake of she's invisible. So I didn't really do anything with her because she's kind of forgetful, she's kind of forgettable because she's invisible. In fact, hey, she could have been in every major fight in the entire story. She could have been there with Stain and everything, you know, when Todoroki and Ida and Deku were fighting against Stain. Toru could have been there. She could have been at the end of the alleyway watching. She could have been there during the Hideout Raid arc, you know, watching All Might and everybody. She could have been there during the Chisake arc. You don't know that. She could have been there. She could have been everywhere. And this is where a lot of the theories appear that she is, in fact, the traitor. So this actually works rather well, because last week I did Kaminari's video, and I've read a lot of things about Kaminari being the traitor, and now Toru's video, and I've read a lot of things about Toru being the traitor. Okay, so let me stick my, my suit a little bit more into my shirt, and let me tell you all about this. Okay, well, the first thing is pretty obvious. She's invisible. She has an invisibility quirk, so if you're talking about spying or espionage or being a double agent, I mean, what quirk would be better? I mean, yeah, Kaminari's is pretty good, too, allowing to, you know, use his radio to communicate with villains and basically like a walking GPS and everything, but Toru is straight up invisible, so, you know, she could be in league with the villains the whole time. It's not like you would have to pay attention to her facial expressions or something, like, oh, Toru, you know, we're questioning her. You know, unless you have her hooked up to something to, like, measure, like, her heart rate or something, because you wouldn't be able to tell from her facial expressions, okay? She might be going around, if she is the traitor, she could be walking around being, you know, showing off facial expressions that might just give it away, but we would never know, you know? So a few of the reasons why that she is the theories that she is the traitor. Like Kaminari, there's a lot of them, so I'm not going to go into every single one, but there seems to be 2 that are, like, the big moments in the series that are like, okay, that's kind of weird. The first one is at USJ. Now, keep in mind, USJ was one of the earlier arcs in My Hero Academia, and this was the first arc that really primarily focused on the entire class as a whole. The entire class goes to the United Simulation Joint, and they get separated, and then the villains attack, and then there are all these different zones, and they have to defend themselves until the heroes arrive. Okay, that's the basic premise of the arc. Now, even though all the students are included in this battle, Horikoshi does not he doesn't like focus on every single student's fight, okay? Because for one thing, that would have taken way too long for the arc, and number two, I think he wanted to slowly like, all right, we'll focus on, like in the USJ arc, we focused on Kaminari and Jiro and Momo, and we focused a little bit more on Suyu and Mineta. Those were big characters during that arc. But as for other characters like Tokoyami and Koda, they were in the rain zone, the squall zone. We don't really focus on them all that much. Ojiro was fighting people in the conflagration zone, but we don't really get to see him all that much. It's expanded on a little bit more in the anime, but not very, it doesn't like show the full fights. We just cut to various scenes in the USJ. But there are a few students that we just don't know where they were at during the USJ. And some of those students were, two of them in particular. One was Aoyama, who we don't really know what he was doing there, because after the USJ, he was like, where was I at the entire time? I bet you're all curious. And Suyu's like, where were you at? And he's like, it's a secret. So that's a little off, but not as off considering it's Aoyama. And then the other one was Hagakure. But here's the thing. Hagakure later on explained, because she's invisible, we don't know where she is, but later on, Hagakure explains that she was actually in the landslide zone with Todoroki. Now, what happened was, Todoroki, as soon as he got warped to the landslide zone, and the villains were attacking him, Todoroki instantly just froze the entire area, the entire zone, just frozen instantly. And then Hagakure was kind of like off to the side. She was just like, oh yeah, I was there with Todoroki, and he froze everything, but I'm glad I didn't get caught up in it too. And then Todoroki was off to the side like, I didn't even know you were there. So you could either chalk that up to Horikoshi just kind of explaining, where everybody was. Like, oh, we didn't see the invisible girl the entire arc. Oh, that's where she was. Okay. But then again, like I said, it would have been very easy for her to lie about that. It would have been very easy if she was the one that was the traitor and informed the villains of where they were at and everything. It would be very easy at the end of it all to just be like, oh yeah, I was using my invisibility quirk to hide. And where were you? Oh, I was in the landslide zone with Todoroki, because she specifically picked an area where only one student got sent. I believe only Todoroki got sent to the landslide zone. She didn't say any other zone where multiple students were sent. She's like, oh yeah, no, the landslide zone with Todoroki, and he froze everybody right away, but I managed to avoid that somehow. And Todoroki, like he said, like, I didn't even know you were there the whole time, which is understandable, but still, it's a little off. But that's just the one scene. Here's the other one that kind of is a little odd, I'll admit, considering that I was rereading these chapters, and it was just a little strange. So, remember those few, it wasn't very long, it wasn't an arc, it was only like 2 chapters. Those 2 chapters after the end of semester tests, after the students fight against the teachers, and right before the training camp arc starts, you have like those 2 in-between chapters, where some of the kids from Class 1A decide to go shopping at the mall, and, Deku runs into Tomura there. Okay, well, whose idea it was to go shopping in the first place? It was Hagakure's. It was Toru. She was like, since we're done with the test, let's all go shopping tomorrow! And Tomura just happened to be at that same mall and just happened to run into Izuku. Now, once again, Tomura is the leader of the League of Villains. He has all these villains at his disposal. He has All for One at his disposal. So, it's not impossible to think that he could have been trailing them, or he could have found out or something through one of his informants that, like, hey, those Class 1A kids are at the mall. Like, oh, alright, I'll be right there. And he just starts walking around like a civilian. But, I'm not saying, I'm just saying, okay. But beyond those, there's a few others that involve the traitor thing, but I'm not going to go way into that here. Once again, there's people that literally have entire, like, documents, like, set, like, Toru is the traitor, and here is my evidence. So, you could go look that up, but it's just 2 little moments in the series that I found, yeah, that could maybe explain why, she could be the traitor. But then again, it could always just be like, Horikoshi didn't want to use her during USJ and just explained away her presence later. Or it could be, because Toru, a lot of times, her personality is very typical high school girl. That's the best way I can describe it. Like, her room is pretty normal for that age. Her attitude, let's go shopping. Come on, guys, let's go do this. That's just very peppy, very energetic. Not really out of the ordinary in terms of, in terms of that kind of, age, that's her personality, she's not like really studious or very smart like Momo, she's not like kind of punkish like Jiro, she's just a normal high school girl, she just happens to be invisible, right? So Let's talk about the invisibility thing. The first thing that gets brought up a lot whenever talking about invisibility, and I think it was Joy Boy that made a video about this. I'm pretty sure it was him, but if not, I apologize. The whole Aizawa thing, because most fans would realize, like, okay, she's invisible, and Aizawa has the ability to erase quirks, and so what would happen if he erased Hagakure's quirk? Well, that raises the question right away. Is Hagakure by default always invisible, or can she turn her invisibility on and off? That's the question, isn't it? So far in the series, every single solitary time we've seen her, she has been invisible. Although, I guess we could have always seen her, like, in a crowd or something. If she could, like, let me put it this way. If she could turn her invisibility off, she might have done that, and we could have seen her in a crowd, because there's plenty of times in the story where Horikoshi's like, oh, like, during the sports fest, or during whatever, here's a bunch of students from the school, just in a big shot, but there she is right there, but we wouldn't know, because she's invisible all the time. So it could be every time she's around the class, she stays invisible. She might have been visible at other points, but we just wouldn't know because, you know, and Horikoshi just chose not to focus on her, so we wouldn't know. Maybe she's just a face in the crowd. Who knows? Other explanations is that she was born, that, you know, her quirk, you know, triggered whenever she was born, because some quirks activate as soon as you're born, like Present Mike's voice quirk. That was present the second he popped out of his mom's womb. Other quirks take a few years to develop, so maybe she was born like a normal baby and then just turned invisible someday, like Octun Baby from JoJo Part 4. I don't know how that works. But the question is, could Aizawa make her visible? Because in order for Aizawa's erasure ability to work, he actually has to see you, because it's like, but she's invisible. So my way of looking at this is, yes, Aizawa, if he wanted to, could erase her quirk. Because the way I look at it is, she's still physically there. And I think that the way his erasure quirk works is, anybody that's in the line of sight of his eyes that has a quirk, that a quirk is erased. With exceptions of, like, the heteromorphic quirks, like the mutation quirks. He can't erase those. But I think as long as the person that he's trying to erase is in the line of sight of his eyes, that quirk is erased. Because her invisibility is a byproduct of her quirk. So it's like, my quirk can erase other quirks unless the quirk is not to be seen by my quirk. It just seems kind of messed up. So I think that, yeah, if Aizawa wanted to, he could erase her quirk, but there's really no reason for him to do that, at this point, anyway. Other thing, this is kind of interesting, okay? There was a bonus chapter in one of the recent volumes of My Hero Academia, and it wasn't a bonus chapter that was actually drawn by Horikoshi. It was drawn by Yoko Akiyama, who does, like, those 4-panel comics, like, bonus things at the end of the volumes, okay? But this particular one focused on Toru, because a lot of the students of Class 1A, all the girls in the class, finally got interested in, I wonder what her face looks like. And so the premise of the comics were all like, we need to figure out what she looks like. So they do the typical stuff. They first try to do, like, an imprint of her face, but that fails. And then they try to do, they get Hatsumi to develop this really, like, 3 billion pixel camera to take a picture of her, but the problem with that is the camera is too good, so it doesn't just take a picture of Toru, it takes a picture of, like, all the, like, the radio waves, and there's so much distortion from the picture they can't actually make out what she looks like. Uraraka thinks that there's, like, a ghost present or something, but no, it was most likely that the camera was so damn good, it was able to capture, like, ultraviolet, infrared, and radio waves and all that stuff, and that's why it's super blotchy and blurry. There was another one where they're like, oh, we found this face pad, you should try it on, Toru, it'll make your face feel so refreshed, and she puts it on, and it's like, well, she has a nose and 2 eyes and a mouth. We figured that much, okay. And then they ask her about her parents. They're like, hey, we've never seen a picture of you and your folks. And she's like, oh, my folks, they seem pretty normal, right? And she shows them a picture, and her parents are invisible too. So that's where we find that out. By the way, even though this was done by Akiyama, not Horikoshi, I would imagine that they would actually have some, you know, back and forth to make sure that they don't do something way out there. I'm sure Akiyama maybe approached Horikoshi or called him up and was like, hey, is it cool if I show Toru's parents and they're invisible too? And Horikoshi's like, oh yeah, sure, that's hilarious, go for it. I'm sure there's at least a little bit of communication there so that they don't do something radically different. But the last panel of this bonus chapter, these little comics, this is the one that's the most interesting, okay? And this is the one where we kind of have a decent idea what she looks like. Alright, so And by the way, if this is the case, I don't know if this is something like Horikoshi's like, I'm okay with people finding out what she looks like because she's not the traitor, or if he wants to keep that later down the line and this is not canon, I don't know. But this is the last panel, okay? So they decide to straight up just ask her. They just wanted to ask her, what does your face look like? So they do. They go up to Toru and they ask her, and she's like, oh, that's why everyone was so weird today. What my face looks like, huh? So first off, this implies that she knows what it looks like, so she can turn off her invisibility. She can turn it off and look into a mirror, and she can actually describe what she looks like, because otherwise, she would just be like, what my face looks like? I don't know! I've been invisible ever since I was 2 years old! I don't know what I look like! Or she shows them a picture of her baby, baby album or like something, and it's just like, that's what I look like, because that was taken before I turned invisible. But no, she actually explains, oh yeah, my face, what do I look like? Okay. And so she says she looks like a cross between Yang Guifei, probably messing up that name. It's a famous Chinese princess of hundreds of years ago she lived, and she's regarded by many to be one of the most beautiful women in all of China. So the girls automatically assume, oh, so she's gorgeous? But then Toru goes on to say, I also look like Francis Xavier. So Yang Guifei, this beautiful Chinese princess, and Francis Xavier, who was a monk that introduced Christianity to Japan, mashed together. And then that's the end of the comic, and everyone's just like, huh? So she could have just been messing with them, because she might have been asked this plenty of times in her life. Maybe she is invisible all the time and she doesn't know, so she just ended up trolling people. Like, every time someone asks me what I look like, I'm just gonna say, I look like this beautiful person, and then this monk from hundreds of years ago that introduced Christianity to Japan, just to screw with them, mashed together. Okay, well, it is the internet age, and we have access to photo mashing technology, so I went ahead and I found one of those, and I took an image of this famous Chinese princess Yang, and Xavier, this European monk, and I mashed them together, and I present to you for the first time ever here on my channel, the true face of Toru Hagakure. My God. I do not think I have seen a more breathtakingly gorgeous human being, fictional or not, in my entire life. Toru, you truly are the most attractive model on the face of the planet. You know what? All you gotta do now to make it just go full circle, just to make all the pieces fit together, is now just picture this face on a busty teenage girl's body. And that'll take you away. Okay. I'm starting to think she was trolling with that answer, and that's not what she actually looks like. Yeah. Let's talk about her invisibility a little bit, okay? Because her invisibility, I was like, alright, well, how's this going to work? Because there's actually a few ways you can do this. Of course, this means we have to discuss the light spectrum. Yeah, and I think most people are familiar with the light spectrum. You understand that the human eye is not the end-all, be-all for everything. You understand there's many things in the world and in existence and in the cosmos that this thing right here cannot see. And this actually, for most of human history, this caused a lot of problems, because for much of human history, it was like, if you could not see it, if you could not hear it, or touch it or something, or have some interaction with it, it must not exist, right? But later on, with science, we start to discover, like, oh no, there's actually a lot of stuff that human beings can't interact with any way, but it still exists, So the light spectrum is like so, and the slither of visible light is found right here in between ultraviolet and infrared, because the visible light spectrum that we have goes from short wavelengths all the way up to long wavelengths. The shortest wavelengths being like blue and purple, and that's why you go beyond that this way and you get to ultraviolet, and then the longer wavelengths are at the end are red, and then beyond that visible light you have infrared, so that's where that is. And then if you keep going on down that line with the longer wavelengths, you get into radio waves and AM waves and radar and that kind of shit. And if you go on the shorter wavelengths past ultraviolet, that's when you start getting into X-rays and gamma rays. And, well, I'm already all green, so let's do this. Tekking smash! Gamma radiation! But, yeah, and then cosmic rays one step beyond that. You don't want to get doused with those things, man. That's that's straight up death right there, okay? So we on the page here of how the light spectrum works? Okay. Well, here's the fun thing. During the provisional license exam, we actually get an ability that Toru can do. I always just assumed her quirk was invisibility, and that's it. Pretty basic quirk. Not really a lot of stuff you can do with that in terms of attacking. Maybe I thought she could eventually learn how to turn other things invisible. Like, you know, I could turn this, you know, iced tea bottle invisible or something. But no, she actually has an attack that she uses that she learned how to do, and it's called concentrated refraction. So this implies that she has the ability to refract light. It's not that her body just goes invisible, like she's on a different wavelength or something. Like she might be on the same wavelength as like AM waves or something like that, or radio waves, and that's why you can't see her, because human eyes cannot pick up radio waves. Which, by the way, in case you're out there thinking to yourself, I want better eyesight to see everything. No, you don't. God, no, you don't. Can you imagine if you had the ability to see those long wavelengths, like radio waves and TV waves and the waves coming out of your cell phone and everything? It would drive you insane. The whole world would just be this bloody mess because of all the electronic equipment we have. No, that would be torture. And by the way, as a side note here, I didn't have really a time to mention this, but I'll just bring it up now. The animal on the planet Earth that has the best eyesight is something called the Mantis Shrimp. Look at this little guy. He looks like an alien. But this thing here has the ability to see ultraviolet light, all of the visible light that we can see, and as well as infrared light as well. So this thing has incredible eyesight. But I could not imagine having the eyesight the same as the Mantis Shrimp. It would be just, it would just overload your brain. It would drive you mad. But anyway, yeah, going back to Toru, she's not on a different wavelength. Think of it more of like she's a prism, and the light from the surrounding world goes into her, but it doesn't leave. So it's like she's a prism that can trap lights. And then, with proper training, she can release that light whenever she wants. So, she's invisible because all the light that's hitting her is not refracting off, so your eyes can't see her. And then, when she was in the provisional license exam, she's going up all against the enemies of other schools, and she's like, take this, concentrated refraction! And then she just takes all that light that was in her, like that, you know, she's absorbing or keeping in her, and she releases it all at once in just a big burst. So like a flashbang, and she's like, say cheese, and then boom, big flash of light, and everyone goes blinded around her. Right, so it's refraction. That's what she's actually doing, and it's neat, because if she trains more, she might be able to do a bunch of other stuff with light refraction. She might be able to, like, send out different colors or something, like a light ball. You know, those things that, like, discos and stuff, you plug it in and the different colored lights shoot out, because that's the way, like, the sun's light works with, like, the reason why our sky is blue, in case you're curious and you never decided to look it up. Blue is a particularly short wavelength on that spectrum, because, like I said, on the left side it goes shorter, and then the further you go down right it gets longer. So blue is particularly short. The sun's light hits, which is white, hits the Earth, and there's the atmosphere in the Earth, all the different particles and everything, and because blue is so short, the type of wavelength, that's why the sky is blue. And then, during sunset and sunrise, when the sunlight has to travel particularly longer through the atmosphere to reach you, as opposed to, like, when the sun is, like, directly above, when it's, like, sunset, sunrise, it's, like, at that level, because it takes longer, most of the blue and all those colors get removed, and that's why the sky is usually red during sunset and sunrise. So there you go. Just a little bit of information about myself. When I was a little kid, the reason I thought the sky was blue, because I pictured the sky as a giant mirror, and I heard that most of the Earth is water, and when I was a kid, I still thought water was blue, because blue, it's usually the color that's depicted in cartoons. Water is just straight up blue, it's not clear. If you're swimming around in just straight up blue water, you should probably get out immediately. There might be something wrong with it. You're swimming in highly toxic blue dye or something. But, yeah, I thought the sky was like a giant mirror, and it was reflecting the ocean, which was blue, and that's why the sky was blue. That's the reason. I was like 5. So yeah, that's pretty much all we've got from Toru. She teamed up with Shoji during the end of semester exams to fight against Snipe, and they managed to pass. But like I said, she's never really had a shining moment of herself, except for that shining moment, of course. But a shining moment to herself, where she teams up with, like, one other student and they fight a villain or something. We've never really had that yet, and she's always been in the background. One of the few students that Horikoshi really hasn't focused on all that much. But, yeah, she's usually there as the object of a lot of Minetta's affections, because I would imagine that drives Minetta absolutely crazy, because it's like, I wonder how sexy she is. I need to know, man. I need to know. That was actually one of the examples of one of the creepiest scenes Minetta's ever had. A lot of times it's just like, you know, typical perverted shit you see in other anime, but there was that one scene where they're going from room to room, and Minetta goes into Hagakure's room, and she's like, here's my room, it's pretty normal, and Minetta goes up to her drawers, and he doesn't open them. He does something far creepier. He goes up to her, like, you know, dresser and is like, plus ultra. Okay, I think at that point you could just throw him out the freaking window. Alright, that's alright, calm down, buddy. Alright, let's pick you up and throw you in the dog cage for the night, because that's getting a little scary. I'd be locking the doors. I think all the women in that dorm should have deadbolts after that little scene, you know what I mean? Okay. But yeah, I think someday we're gonna find out what she actually looks like, whether it be from her own free will, she decides, like, oh yeah, I can turn off my invisibility watch. Or she, you know, the thing with Aizawa does his erasure ability and then erases her, and then we find out what she looks like. Who knows? I don't know, but we'll see. But until then, I like her. You know, she's pretty peppy and happy, and like I said, she's got big boobs, so that helps as well. But yeah, that's Toru Hagakure. And I'm going to go ahead and give her number 16 in my favorite Class 1A members, just because, like I said, she's one of the members that doesn't really do very much, so I'm just going to give her the same number that she has in the class itself. So yeah, Hagakure's number 16 for me. Alright, and with that all being said, we can now move on to everybody's favorite segment of this show, the rolling of the glorious, magnificent D20. The D20 will guide us. The D20 will lead us upon the path of victory, and all the naysayers out there can leave, for this is the cult of the D20. The cult of the D. Alright, let's roll this bastard. Rolling. 13 is Sarah. We already had him. I think that's our first reroll. I think after, like, this is what, like the 7th video I've done in this series? First reroll after 7. I think that's pretty good. Alright, let's do it again. Rolling. Number 10 is Sato. Man, we're just rolling along with the ones that I just don't... We're going with the unimportant members of the class now. That's what we're going to be doing. I guarantee after Sato, we're going to talk about Koda or something. But yeah. Alright, so, I gotta bust out all the sugary sweets and the cakes and all that stuff and go and buy some Twinkies, because the next episode is going to be all about Mr. Diabetes himself, Rikado Sato. Alright. He also reminds me of Kinkyu Man from Ultimate Muscle. Remember that show? Ultimate Muscle! Ultimate Muscle! Oh my god, I'm such an idiot, guys. I forgot this whole time. I had this right in front of me and I didn't even realize it. So, I have all the Talismans from Jackie Chan Adventures. Remember that? I got those a few months ago. Snake Talisman, right here, grants the user invisibility. I could have used this the entire time. Ah, right, okay, there we go. Well, it's a lot more effectual and, cheaper than the green suit was. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and, check back here next time. Signing out! You can't see it, but I'm doing the signing out motion. Yeah. Later, everyone.